Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our Brown Bears Sports Report. I'm your host, Scott Cordici. Glad you could join us. Our Brown Bears Sports Report is brought to you each week by United Healthcare. You put care into everything that you do. United Healthcare does too. United Healthcare, health plans that care for you and your family every step of the way. See what care can do at uhc.com. Well, this week, joining us on the Brown Bears Sports Report, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our women's fencing program, and with us is their head coach, Alex Ripa. Alex, how are you?
Doing very well, thanks, Scott.
Well, Alex, thank you for being with us, and you brought with you four of your student athletes. First, a senior saber from Syracuse, New York, Signe Golash. Signe, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, thank you for being with us, Signe. A junior foil from Lexington, Kentucky, Anna Susini is with us. Anna, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for much for having us.
Anna, thank you for being with us. A sophomore saber from Cresskill, New Jersey, Casey Chan is our guest. Casey, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having us.
Well, Casey, thank you for being with us. And a sophomore foil from New City, New York, Anisha Kasi is with us. Anisha, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for being with us. Coach, we'll start with you. In your fourth season as head coach of the fencing program here, you spent 3 years as an assistant, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you came to Brown from Harvard. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. I was an assistant coach at Harvard for quite a few years.
And so in your seventh season overall here at Brown, fourth as head coach, and talk to us a little bit about the team. Obviously, no season this year, but talk to us a little bit about the team that you're coaching.
Well, it's an exciting group of people. I mean, I think we're really a like-minded group of people. We feel like we've got some history to make here at Brown University. So we're really excited to take this program and continue our work to turn it into a world-class program. We've got goals, obviously, to win the Ivy League Conference. That would be our big dream goal, and then continue to have qualifiers to the NCAAs as we've done each year, and just continue to improve. You know, it's been a little bit of a rocky road for us. I don't think there's any secret there in terms of what happened in the spring and all that kind of stuff. So I think myself and all of us are just very eager to get back to building what we were building, which is a really strong program of, and I'll say it in front of all of you, just awesome people. This is a team that has so much heart. They're such good people. I can't say enough about them. They're just a fantastic team to work with. So can't wait to get back to kicking butt once we get this COVID thing under control.
Alex, you're originally from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Is that correct?
It is, yeah.
How did you get involved in the sport of fencing to begin with?
Yeah, a little crazy. So I think, kind of a history nerd and a sword nerd growing up. And I actually started training quite young in medieval sword combat, believe it or not. I had a family friend who was a connection who was very much involved in the medieval kind of recreation of medieval forms. And what I really wanted to do was modern fencing, but it simply didn't exist in my area in Rhode Island. So actually, when I decided to move up to Boston, for college, I really started fencing then. So I started fencing in fencing terms quite late with modern fencing. But very quickly got very competitive, and eventually, after quite a few years, probably 10, 12 years or so, came back home to help out with my family. And once I was in Rhode Island, my coach said, look, there's really a need for fencing there. And so I opened up my own fencing club, and that story kind of grew very, very rapidly. So it's been a long time now. I've been in fencing about I'm shocked to say 35, 40 years or so. It's really, it goes by fast.
Signe, you are a senior, and I'm sure this isn't the way that you thought or would have hoped that your career would end here at Brown. Talk to us a little bit about, what it's been like during the pandemic, not being able to be with your teammates like you normally would, under normal circumstances. And, just talk to us a little bit about how you're dealing with things right now.
I mean, it's been really tough. The team is so close. We're such a tight group. We love hanging out with each other. We love going to practice together, and not being able to have, the sort of camaraderie we normally do at lifts and practice it's been tough because I consider all the people on the fencing team, some of my closest friends. And so we've tried to all stay in touch, virtually as much as we can. Yeah, I really miss it. I really wish I could have another year of just normal going to tournaments, going to the V-Dub together after practice and just, having fun on the vans on the way to practice. But, I'm glad that, the team is going to continue, but I had a good 3 years.
And how difficult was it? Coach alluded to this, and it's the white elephant in the room, we all know, but that disappointing announcement that came in the spring that various varsity programs were being cut. And obviously the men's fencing program that is now transitioning from varsity to a club sports status. But how difficult and how unsettling was that for you in your life?
It was really tough. It was also announced on my birthday. I turned 21, and then at noon or whatever, I found out that our team was being cut. Not really good news you want to hear on your birthday. Yeah, it was very tough, especially because I think I speak for everyone. We don't really consider ourselves as a men's and a women's team. Even though we fence separately, we practice together, we lift together, we consider ourselves one big team. We all support each other like one big team. So, finding out first we were cut and now that we're not really going to have our other half was very, very difficult. But, I hope the men's team has success as a club and we'll be able to pull through for just women's varsity.
Anna, you're a junior, so I'm sure that you're hoping by this time next year, things will be back to normal and you'll have a season to talk about your senior year, correct?
Yeah, very much so.
So what's it been like for you during the pandemic? How have you been dealing with things? These are not normal times for any of us.
Yeah, definitely. It's been pretty tough. I was fortunate enough during the summer that I ended up going home and I was able to fence a little bit at my club there. Of course, like we've already talked about, everything was so up in the air that it was nice to have that as something to do. And I've been fencing at that club since I was like 10 or 11 years old. And so I've my coach and I there are very close too. So that's a big way that I coped with it. I've also just been trying to keep in touch with people virtually, trying to keep in touch with the team virtually, like Signe was saying. That's something that that's been really helpful. And I think that even though it's really difficult to not be able to see each other in person, those the occasional phone call I think goes a long way. And so kind of doing that, kind of taking care of myself mentally as well whenever I can, whether that's like making sure I go outside for a bit every day, just getting some fresh air, trying to get moving in one way or another. That's all been really good to help me deal with it.
Anna, I'm going to ask you to explain in layman's terms for those of us who are not overly familiar with your sport. Can you explain to us, you're a foil, but the difference between epifoil and saber?
Yeah, definitely. So epee, foil, and saber are the three weapons of fencing. All three of them are governed by different rules. So there's a referee always who's reffing a bout, which is kind of a game or a match for us. It's called a bout. And each weapon is governed by different rules. And so different rules determining what counts as a point and what doesn't. Also, one of the biggest physical noticeable differences that you see between the three weapons is they're all literally three different types of weapons. All of a foil, an epee, and a saber all look different. And then the target area is also really different. So for foil, it's torso and back. For saber, it's anything above the waist, and epee is anywhere on the whole body. So those are the main differences.
And with the foil, you can only score with the tip of the foil, correct? Whereas in saber, can you score with the side? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Foil and epee, there's like almost like a button on the end of it that connects to the wire that, so you have to really make sure you're hitting with the point. And saber, it's the whole, any part of the blade you can hit with it.
Casey, you are a sophomore saber, and last year as a freshman, you were an NCAA qualifier, third at the NCAA Northeast Regional. Unfortunately, the NCAA championships were canceled due to COVID. But talk to us about your freshman campaign, because it sure seems like it was a pretty successful one.
Thank you. That's a great compliment. But I think My freshman year was really so successful because of just the team that I've had. I think I started off really nervous. The first couple of tournaments were a little bit rougher for me because it's difficult definitely to be on the team and to adjust to that environment. But I think just the entire atmosphere that I had and the fact that I had such a supportive community really helped me, especially at the end of my freshman year. I started to get more comfortable with competing, especially with the team. And then that led to NCAAs. But yeah, I think again, it was just a whole adjustment period, but I really enjoyed competing with the team.
Anisha, same question for you. As a freshman last year, you enjoyed some success as well. You were first team all NFC as a freshman. Talk to us a little bit about your first year with the program.
Yeah, so I agree with Casey's sentiment that adjusting to a team was interesting at the beginning because fencing in high school for me was mostly an individual sport. So adjusting to like having the team cheer you on, but also having the team share your successes and losses was something I had to adjust to. But the team is really just such a supportive community. And by the end of the season, I really looked forward to having my teammates like on the sidelines cheering me on, having them coach me, like looking forward to practices, lifts, and really enjoying each other's successes. So that was a highlight of my freshman year experience.
I know before Brown, you were very much involved with USA Fencing. Can you talk to us a little bit about your involvement and some of the things that you participated in?
Sure. So there were monthly tournaments called NACS, North American Cups. And so I think all of us actually traveled pretty much every month to different parts of the country to compete against basically the top fencers in the country. And so that was a really interesting experience to have in high school because you went to really random parts of the country, like parts you would probably never go to, like on vacation or anything. So, and you also got to make friendships with people all over the country. So like Anna, for example, I knew in high school even before I came to Brown, just because we fenced each other in a lot of those tournaments.
So, Alex, Anna did such a great job of explaining the three different weapons and disciplines. Is there one that is more difficult, in your opinion, than the other?
Oh, that's tricky and liable to get me into a whole lot of trouble. I think they all are so stylistically different that they all offer their own challenges, and it's funny how the challenges I think can vary from one to the other. Now, obviously, epee, or not obviously to those that don't know it, but in epee, there's no system of right of way. In foil and saber, there's right of way that kind of protects you from being hit. You know, if you start an action, somebody has to stop you from doing it before they can hit. But in epee, that doesn't exist. It's just a question of who hits first. So in epee, you don't have any safety net. So then you go over to foil and you say, okay, but foil, like epee, you have to hit with just the point alone on a very small target. And everybody's very squirmy. So it's really tough to get that point to hit that very small target. And then you flip over to saber and you're like, well, that must be cool. You can hit with the whole edge of the weapon. But saber has, this a crazy rapid footwork. It's so fast and there's stops and starts. And I'll throw it out there, the refereeing's really sketchy. So it's really hard. Sometimes you've done everything right, you still don't get the point. So I don't know if I really could say one has much more difficulty over the other. In terms of a training perspective, it's always classically been taught, and I still teach that way for beginners, that you start off in the foil and you learn everything that's common to the other weapons as well. So foil, people should probably start off in it. Is definitely not the most basic weapon, but they all are. Once you know them well, they are so different enough to be a different sport. Each one is a different sport, and I love them all. I love the challenge of all of them. I think fencing actually has the perfect balance. And I know I'm talking a lot, but that the one thing that's really interesting is that it really seems that each weapon suits a personality. You couldn't take one out and still accommodate everybody. Everybody that walks in to learn how to fence, within a matter of, a couple of weeks, you can be like, oh, all right, saber fencer, oh, epee fencer, foil, you know them right away.
Sure.
So I think we need all three of them, and they all offer their own challenges.
Signe, you've had quite a career here at Brown. In fact, your career, like Casey and Anisha we just talked to, got off to a marvelous start. In 2018, you were the Northeast Fencing Conference Rookie of the Year. In fact, you're three-time All NFC, two times first team All NFC. You were an NCAA qualifier as well in 2018. But what do you remember most about your fencing career here at Brown? And what were some of your, I guess, most enjoyable moments that you'll take with you?
I mean, I think honestly, it's been about the team itself. It's been about watching the team grow from when I got here. You know, Alex was new, I was new. We were deciding, you know, what is this team going to be like? And watching the team, you know, grow from that initial year has been really incredible. And up to, I think, one of my favorite moments in the past 3 years, last year at Ivy's, watching our men's team beat UPenn and just everyone freaking out and hugging each other and yelling, and just we were all just so excited, and it was really really amazing to watch. So all of my best memories from this team have been, you know, not necessarily on the strip, but off the strip together, or, you know, watching my teammates be successful and just getting to learn and grow and succeed with all of them.
Anna, you are a two-time All NFC member. What do you miss most about, like I said, the pre-pandemic, being with your teammates and competing? What do you miss the most?
Yeah, I definitely I miss competing. I miss going to tournaments. It's so much fun when you have teammates. I miss cheering on my teammates and coaching them. That's always really fun. But honestly, I just miss like the everyday getting out, going to practice. Because that's kind of the most when and all of us, you know, we've been in this sport for a really long time, so that's what we know. And practice is kind of that consistent, like at the end of the day, if you've just had like a really weird, like really bad or like just kind of off day, like I go to practice and I hang out with my teammates, and by the end of it I always feel just like more myself, more comfortable, just better overall. And I think that having that consistency, and being able to just not just being around my teammates who I absolutely love, but doing the sport itself, and like the more we do it, and we've been doing it for so long, and the more we do it, the more you really fall in love with it. And I really just miss being able to do that, and being able to practice like that, like almost every day.
Casey, same question to you. You know, what do you miss most about the pre-pandemic norm?
Yeah, definitely. I think so very similar to Anna. I really miss seeing my teammates on like a nearly daily basis. It is a really grounding factor at being at Brown. Um, as Anna said, sometimes you're going through classes, you kind of get overwhelmed or think a lot of things are happening. But I think the team is really a great place to center yourself and just remember that we're in this great community and we're blessed with just great friends. And actually, some of my pod mates right now are Anisha and Kyle, so I get to see them. I'm really blessed to get to see them pretty often. But I miss just seeing my teammates on campus, being able to just stop by and like grab a quick bite to eat with them. And even definitely practice. I definitely miss seeing Coach and Coach Jeff. So definitely, I'm hoping things that can get back to normal as soon as possible.
Anisha, what's more challenging about your sport? Is it the physical or the mental aspect of it? And then along those lines, fencing, is it something that it gives you a good mental break, so to speak, from the rigors of everyday life, whether it's the academics or what's going on in your personal life? Is it a good release?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, whether it's more physical or mental, I mean, I think it's pretty much both, but for me, I would say the most challenging part has always been mental. Um, when you're fencing, it's often like constrained in a 3-minute bout. And so that's gives you like doesn't always give you enough time to figure out what your opponent's doing and how you can beat them. And that can be stressful mentally, especially if like you're not letting yourself um, really like figure out what they're doing, or your brain's just not turned on for the day. And so I would say for me, I've always been working on the mental aspect of it. And then, yes, fencing has always been, like Anna and Casey mentioned, like my grounding force and the way I let off steam. So like after a stressful day, I mean, we all have stressful classes. And so fencing practice has always been my way of letting off steam, like refreshing my brain, and just really like being around my teammates has always been a really positive experience for me.
Alex, is fencing similar to other sports? Let's take football or basketball, for example, where you will watch film with your student athletes to try to break down the tendencies of your opponents to kind of help maybe give you an edge going into a particular match?
Well, I don't know if that footage is quite as available as it might be in other sports. I don't know if we have the same kind of scouting, personnel as they might have in other sports to get that film. So we have film every now and again. I think mostly what we're focused on is, our game, and we will tend to watch the trends a little bit more in fencing, because fencing does evolve very quickly. So we want to be aware of the current trends. So it might be that we end up watching a little bit more footage that's from World Cups or from the Olympics or things like that, World Championships, that just make sure that we're operating at, the modern place that fencing is. You go back, I mean, all of you guys have been in fencing for a long time, but you go back 10 years, you're like, I could never do that fencing. You might wish you could, but like you could never do that fencing now. So it just, and in the US, fencing just keeps getting more and more challenging. So yeah, I think we're also such active competitors that I think it's very rare for us to come up against anybody that we fence in collegiate fencing that we haven't seen at national or international tournaments and fenced a whole bunch of times. So, and they're evolving slightly too. So it might not be quite the same. I think fencing, while it's a modern Olympic sport, I think it is, we've got 1,000 years or so of tradition. It operates a little differently than some of the other sports, I think, but we train in a very similar way. Like, obviously we have to be very physically fit, the mental state, which I am most concerned with, I think, for my athletes. Mental state has to be top notch. Like Anisha said, you just don't have time. Like you need to be switched on. You need to be ready to work. There's no time. Your adjustments have to be, within split seconds. So I think that, that's how we go ahead and train. And then occasionally, I think the team itself might do a lot of filming of itself and then review of that stuff. But we break down footage as we get it.
Signe, am I correct in saying that you are a computer science concentrator here at Brown?
Not anymore. I am a philosophy concentrator mainly.
Okay. And do you have any plans for after graduation?
Yeah, in December, I finished applying to PhD programs for philosophy. And so I'm hoping that one of them will admit me and I can work on my PhD.
Well, good luck with that. Anna, what is your concentration?
I'm an international relations concentrator.
And what ultimately would you like to do with that? I know you have another year to worry about what comes next, but what would you like to do with that concentration?
Yeah, I'm actually planning to go to law school. I'm planning on working a little bit after I graduate, taking a couple of years off. But then ultimately, my plan is to go to law school and be a lawyer.
Casey, your bio says that you are a chemistry concentrator. Is that accurate?
Yes, I'm doing chemical biology.
And what would you like to do with that? Would you like to become a doctor?
I think I'm planning to go to grad school for chemistry,
Okay.
but in the long run, I hope to perhaps be a science journalist. So to kind of translate scientific literature so that it can be more accessible to the general public.
Great. Anisha, how about you? A neuroscience concentrator, is that correct?
Yep.
And what ultimately would you like to do someday when you graduate from Brown?
So I'm hoping to take a year off after Brown and then go to medical school and hopefully become a doctor eventually.
Signe, I understand that you play many musical instruments. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mainly play guitar, but I also play electric guitar. I have a bass at home, and I brought my mandolin to school.
Any of your teammates play instruments that you can jam with?
One of our men's fencers, Sean, plays electric guitar. I know. I'm not sure about anyone else.
Yeah. How about hobbies when you're not, I guess that would be a hobby, right? Playing musical instruments. Anything else that you like to do when you're not fencing and you're not, dealing with the rigors of academic life?
Something that I've gotten really into the last few years is baking bread. I've made a lot of bread, especially at home. My mom is a really big home baker, so I bake with her different things, but mostly bread.
That sounds good. Sounds delicious. Anna, how about you? When you're not fencing, when you're not in the classroom, what do you like to do with your downtime, your free time?
Yeah, over the quarantine when practicing was really limited, I actually took up running, which was like my mom's a runner, so it was a really nice way to kind of de-stress. My whole family is also really outdoorsy, and so we do a lot of camping and stuff like that. I'm from Kentucky, and so there's a lot of really cool state parks in the area to go to. And I've found some cool places in New England as well to travel to. So that's what I spend a lot of my time doing.
Casey, we all have had more downtime during the pandemic than we normally would in our busy day-to-day lives. What have you been doing with some of that free time?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of my other hobbies is singing. So I've been trying to get involved in a cappella groups on campus, but my brother likes to make music, so I've been trying to like sing on some of his tracks and also just learn from him. He has like he plays so many different instruments, so it's really cool to spend time with my brothers.
So I don't know, there used to be a group on campus called Jockapella, and I don't know if they still are student athletes, and they are terrific. Is that still around, and are you a part of that?
Yes, that's actually the organization that I was trying out. I'm not sure what's going on right now, like during the quarantine, during lockdown, but I think I would like to continue with them for sure.
Wonderful. Anisha, I understand you play the piano. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And is that one of your hobbies? What are some of the other things you like to do with your free time?
Yeah, piano is definitely a hobby. I did that like since I was 5 years old. So even when I'm home, like I love playing the piano. It's a really relaxing hobby for me. Also, my family and I took up badminton over the quarantine. So we played like every day from March to the end of the summer when it got too cold to play outside. So in the warm weather, that's definitely one of my favorite things to do with my family.
Great. Coach, what would you like to say to Signe in particular? She will be graduating this spring. What would you like to say to Signe and your seniors that will no longer be with the fencing program come May?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's so much to say. I think obviously as a coach who came in and trying to steer the team in a particular direction, these are the ones that have been with me the most, and they have helped me steer this team in the direction that we want it to go. Obviously through some pretty serious ups and downs. So, mostly I'm just really appreciative of their spirit and their willingness to work and their willingness to, join me in the vision and head in that direction. Like I think that um, those contributions, like their contributions, really cannot be overstated. So you know it puts me on the spot a little bit. I think I'm a fairly sentimental guy anyway. Maybe I don't show it too much. I don't know, but obviously I'll plan to send them something. Certainly, I'm not sure we'll be able to get together for an end of the year thing. Like everything's still up in the air, but it really does mean a lot to me. Signe, you're right here. So the way that you've been like steadfast at practice, does every single drill and exercise, like this is leadership in terms of modeling, like modeling absolute leadership. You're like as a person, just a hilarious, smart, insightful, quirky, my cup of tea. I love that stuff. I think Signe and I have a lot in common. We talk a lot about some shared interests that we have. So 4 years goes by just like much too fast, and I'm going to be very sad to see Signe graduate. Very proud of her, but sad to see her graduate. And her family, her family's been marvelous. Your mom and dad have been so great, and her mom certainly does. She brings like these cookies and treats to the meets and things like that. They're always really like these well done, delicious things. And for somebody trying to lose some weight, that was challenging. But at any rate, the whole family, right? Like, so it's not just Signe that's going to be graduating, but the whole family. So anyway, Signe, you've been just an amazing part of the team. I've loved to have you on the team. If we could hit the time machine and do it all over again, I would love to do it one more time. But hopefully we'll get a chance to see each other, like actually see each other before you graduate.
Signe, your thoughts on what Coach just said?
I mean, I'm really going to miss, the last 3 years have been really wonderful. And, being able to have just, wonderful practices and plenty of interesting conversations with Coach and, him helping me improve my fencing and everyone else's fencing. I think I really work well with his coaching style of very patient, just working through what we need to do. And I'm really just going to miss having that, the rock of going to practice, going to meets, having the team, I'm going to miss, Coach and Coach Jeff and everyone on the team. I'm a little sad to be graduating.
Sure. Well, Signe, thank you for your 4 years of representing the program so well. Congratulations on your upcoming graduation, and best of luck to you in the future. And Anna, Casey, Anisha, we can't wait to see you back on campus and hopefully fencing next season as well. And Coach Ripa, thank you for joining us. Folks, the Brown women's fencing team, our guests on this week's edition of the Brown Bears Sports Report.
This has been a presentation of Learfield IMG College.